Welcome to the only place where real, raw, and vulnerable conversations happen with IFBB Bikini Pros to give you an inside look at their struggles, strategies, mindset, passions, and all of life beyond the stage. This podcast is made to inspire, motivate, and remind competitors and the average gym goer that even the most extreme lifestyles and elite athletes have their ups and downs. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm your host, Celeste Rains-Turk, and now it's time for the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. Today, we are speaking with a 32-year-old newly crowned Bikini Pro from Australia who started competing in 2014 and got hooked. In the last decade, she has competed in 23 shows, and her passion has continued to grow from starting out conquering the Natural Bodybuilding federations and winning pro status in 2 federations as she built her physique up for her long-awaited NPC debut in 2022. At the end of 2023, she traveled to compete in America at the Amateur Olympia and then at the Caribbean Grand Prix Pro Qualifier in the Bahamas, where she realized her dream of becoming an IFBB Bikini Pro. So welcome to the show, Lisa Reid. How are you doing?
Hello. Oh, thank you so much for that nice little introduction. I'm doing really well. It's kind of a little bit surreal, I suppose, actually being on the podcast with you because, as you know, I have been listening to your podcast for many, many years. You're the first bikini competing podcast that I listen to. So yeah, to actually be on it now as a pro is quite a dream come true, really.
Oh, that's so awesome. Honestly, when I hear that, it blows me away because I love doing this. So then to be able to connect with people who have loved listening since I've been doing this since we're coming up, actually, I think your episode will come out right before the 6-year anniversary episode.
Ah, exciting.
Yeah, I'm so excited.
Yeah,
So
no,
I'm so happy.
absolutely love what you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And now you know I'm going to ask you, is there anything
I
you
know.
do or think about or ritual you have before your heel hits the stage?
Yeah, so obviously I suppose in those kind of moments before the last little bit of a moment, I'm always the one who's pumping up for like that very last possible moment. I'm on the smaller side, so I definitely do take that advantage to kind of pump up to the last minute, and then just going through my routine again. Even though I've done it a million times, it just really does just calm me to go through it. But in those final few seconds before my heel hits the stage, it really is just kind of taking it all in, looking out at the lights, getting those bit of glimpses of the audience if I can. I grew up as a dancer, so I kind of grew up on stage. So for me, the stage is my happy place. So in those final few moments, it really is just kind of looking out at what's ahead of me and just really feeling grateful that I just get another opportunity to do what I love and step onto what's kind of always been my favorite place. So yeah.
Wow. That's really amazing that you actually can fulfill your passions from dance in competing now, and you love the stage. You really love it.
I do.
When you reference looking at the audience, are you looking for people you know or just kind of getting the vibe and the energy?
Oh, yeah, no, definitely not looking for people I know. You obviously can't see that much from that, just behind a curtain, but it's just kind of, seeing that there is people there, just, again, like you said, getting a vibe for that energy, just the lights, just the atmosphere, everything. It just really, really does excite me. So I love those, final little moments.
Yeah, me too. When I did the North American show, they had us come up on the stage while the other people were going. So we were in a triangle. I don't know if so that is always weirder for me because I'm well, I've already done my little pre-stage routine and now I'm just standing here I don't want to watch anybody else do their routine. And I'm looking at the judges in case they look at me. But then you're also soaking in the crowd and the lights. It's that moment before the moment,
Yeah. No, absolutely.
So I really want to hear if you started competing with the intention of going into the IFBB one day, or if your start to competing was really just because I just want to see what it's like.
Yeah, honestly, when I started competing, so it was back in 2014. I was from a very small town in Australia. I have moved now, but I honestly didn't even know what the different federations were. So at that point, there was definitely no intention to kind of compete with the IFBB. social media, I think I'd only maybe just got my social media account. Like I wasn't following anyone who was in the industry or anything like that. It wasn't really a big, massive bodybuilding community where I was. So I honestly went in quite blind when I did it.
Yeah.
I went to like the federations that were kind of available, like locally near me. Yeah, so definitely no intention there. I went in completely blind. My aspirations to compete in the IFBB obviously did come down, further down the track once I became more immersed into the sport.
Which is interesting because sometimes I think when people get involved in a federation, they generally will stick to it or they like it a lot, or maybe they don't even think about other federations. So, what brought
Yeah.
the NPC and the IFBB to your awareness?
Yeah. I think it was a couple, but it may have even been maybe like my first kind of year or two into it. Once I really did kind of start to, follow competitors on Instagram, like really started to research it, become, involved, following more competitors, all of that. And then obviously when I did see the NPC IFBB for the first time, I was obviously drawn to, how incredible those competitors were. But I also, for me back then, when I was a little baby in the sport, I didn't think that, I would even be ready or able to do that federation essentially. Like I was like a natural athlete. Like I was just like, oh, there's no way I could do that. Like I had absolutely kind of no idea intention. But then obviously as I started to compete more, started to grow more in the sport, evolve in the sport, kind of started to realize my potential. My passion for, the IFBB definitely, or NPC definitely did grow. And then I also started to believe in myself that I could actually do this too. So it was kind of just a matter of, it was a bit of a progression of, I did those natural federations first. And then once I kind of had conquered that and knew that we had got my physique into a spot where I could be competitive into the NPC IFBB, it was, 100% focused to that. That has been my, end goal for many, many years now. It was just, taking that time to really build the physique and, do it.
Yeah, and you hear that a lot too. Like you hear competitors who come from other federations and they want to try out the NPC, but the size, the competitiveness of it, the level, the caliber is perceivably higher. So
Mm.
it generally does serve a lot of athletes to progress in a different league. But then the opposite can also be true. I've met a lot of competitors in the NPC who are like, well, I've been trying to go pro for 10 years and it hasn't happened. Like
Yeah.
maybe I shouldn't be in this. So you had a long journey to your pro card.
Yeah.
When you finally got it, what was that feeling like for you?
It was, yeah, surreal.
Yeah.
Surreal to say that. Yeah, it was incredible. I suppose when I got to that point, I did feel, I guess, in my heart, like in all the amount of work that I'd done, like I felt that at that point, like I was deserving of it. But to actually kind of have, the judges recognize that, and, we also know it all depends on who you're on stage with, at the end of the day, like what physiques are there. So for me to actually, on that day be determined as, the competitor who did fit the bikini criteria the best, like to actually be rewarded, to actually have those, years and years and years and years of like hard work and focus and dedication to that. It was, really, definitely quite surreal. Like I'd obviously imagined that moment, so many times when I'd be on the stairs doing my cardio constantly, you'd really, really envision it, like the stairs when I do all my manifesting. But that's what I kind of envisioned it. I kind of imagine what I may say, but like I just kind of went completely blank. Like I was just, just in shock.
I bet.
But yeah, no, just surreal and amazing. And I'm just excited, I guess, to be able to now use this and keep competing again and starting from the beginning essentially again. And it's exciting. It's very, very exciting.
Yeah, you're in this position now where you get to like essentially climb the ranks again or see where you are at. And
Yes.
I'm actually curious if you would recommend the route you took. Like, would you recommend other athletes to start in different federations and then like progress, or would you recommend other athletes just go straight to the federation that they see that they want to fit into eventually?
Yeah, I think it honestly does depend on the athlete. Like some athletes do, their heart is set on one federation. And if that is exactly like where you want to go and like what you want to do, then absolutely do that. Just I think it's important to just really take the time to build your physique, first. Like obviously it is many, many years to kind of be able to build that, the physique that kind of is that level of, achieving like an IFBB pro card. So, but in the way that I did it as well, I suppose, like I said, when I started, I didn't even know what the federations were. It was back when it was, just doing those local shows. So for me, I guess I wouldn't, like regret what I did because it really was like stepping stones for me. Like I had all of these steps and goals that I wanted to achieve. So I wanted to, it started with, I didn't place in my first show. Like, so then from that, it was like, I wanted to win my first show. Then I wanted to win my first overall, then my first national title, my first pro card, my first pro title. And then once I kind of achieved those in those natural federations, then it was, the other stepping stones again, like with the NPC, IPC, like NPC, IFBB. So yeah, I get there's definitely absolutely like no right or wrong way to do it. If you are just a beginner starting out who doesn't really know where they fit, doesn't know what federation they want to do, maybe doing some of those natural federations is a good idea to start. But if the like NPC IFBB is something that you know that's what you want to do, then just really just take that initial time to build and grow. And if you need to take times off, take a lot of time off between seasons so that you can really come back, take the feedback on, improve, and yeah, just keep working towards that end goal.
Yeah, like no matter what, if you have to grow, you have to grow. And it's like
Mm,
regardless of what federation or what division, and especially in the NPC and the IFBB, I think it's like if I could go back in time, I would tell myself before you compete, like, why don't you grow for 3 years at least? Like, I probably would have saved me a lot of money, a lot of time,
yeah,
a lot of energy. And so I like that you're encouraging to take the time to grow. And I think part of also understanding the approach you took is that federations have different posing standards, different physique
yeah.
criteria, like judging criteria. So when you
Mm-hmm.
transitioned, was it difficult for you to change your posing, or did you find that even your past experience in other federations still lended it maybe easier? And obviously you were a dancer, so maybe that helps too. But did
Yeah.
that make it easy for you to switch, or would you say it was a difficult switch?
I think it was obviously I had been competing for quite like a fair time by then. And like you said, I did have the the background of being a dancer. So I do kind of tend to pick up, like being able to be a bit more like flowy and stuff like that in my posing. But yeah, the IFBB posing is definitely, a lot different and a lot more details and stuff into it than some of the other federations. So what I did though is I did start my posing very early. Like I'm going to say it was, a year and a half to 2 years, potentially even before I did my first NPC show when I started doing the posing. So, yeah.
Wow. Did you start that posing practice while still competing in other federations?
No, so I did have a bit of a longer time off period. It was obviously around the 2020, 2021 kind of
Yeah.
time when shows weren't on, we weren't allowed to travel and stuff like that. So I did have a prep which I had started, which I wasn't able to finish due to that.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think I started my posing at the very start of 2021, and then I got on stage. Yeah, it was like April of 2023. So yeah, I was doing it for every year before. Yeah.
Yeah. And to win your pro card in Australia as well
Mm-hmm.
is super, super competitive.
Yeah.
When there's only two pro cards being awarded each year, is this because the sport still isn't like big enough out there? Like the federation isn't big enough, competition, there's not enough competition, or is it just there's not a lot of promoters and shows to actually maybe grow in that? Do you know?
Yeah. Well, we essentially only have one promoter. So we've got it's called IFBB Pro League Oz. That's why I sometimes refer to NPC as IFBB because that's how it
Yeah.
kind of is in here. But we've essentially only just got the one IFBB Pro League Oz. So it's the one kind of promoter, and then we have shows in Australia are generally split into two seasons. So we've got season A, which is generally like April, May time, and then we've got like a season B, which is September, October, November. They are adding a couple of new shows. But essentially, yeah, it's all the state shows. So we have, I think 6 state shows, 5 state shows in the season, and then it goes to the nationals, like / pro qualifier. And then, yeah, there's just the one pro card each national show. And the talent in Australia is honestly insane. Like, we have so many strong athletes. The caliber just keeps getting stronger and stronger. Like, even the national, like the pro lineup, the pro qualifier lineup, the overall lineup that I was in season B, people were just saying it was just like insane, like to watch. And yeah, we really get there's only one
It
pro card.
is. That's what's so surprising is like there is a lot more competitors. Now, is it like the same as America? No, probably not. But the level, the physiques, the aesthetics, like it's all there. So then to only have 2 pro cards being awarded, whereas in America it's like hundreds in a year, like there's a lot going around now. So
I watched some of the shows because I obviously keep up to date with like everything. I remember watching one show and it was like, I think first and second place got pro cards and there was like 7 height classes or something. And I was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, exactly. It's very different. And I mean, our classes, sometimes they're massive classes, of course. And so I can see that, but also like when you compare it to Australia, that's so different. And I guess, did that influence your decision to come to America as well as go compete in the Bahamas?
Yeah, absolutely. I obviously knew I've competed in the America once before back in 2018 with another federation, and I absolutely loved it, being able to travel, compete, experience all of that in another country.
Wow.
So I always knew, especially that I wanted to do like the Amateur Olympia as well. So that was always on the cards. But then absolutely, it's taking those opportunities as well. I knew there was only one chance to kind of get that pro card, and I kind of knew that I was, at the point where I, would have potentially have been like deserving of it. So I wanted to take advantage of it. And I, ended up doing the 2 shows. And for me, it was like, it was bittersweet, like in the overall, when I, just missed out on winning the pro card in Australia. Like, I won my open height class, got into the overall, like just missed out on that. So it was kind of a very bittersweet moment. Like, I'd already had, that trip booked, and I knew that, if I was to win my pro card, I'd just be going there, just for a holiday to go get to watch the Olympia. Like, I knew it was kind of going to be good either way. So it was bittersweet. It was like, I was like so disappointed that I just missed out. But I also knew that literally a week and a half later, I'd be able to compete at the Amateur Olympia. So I was, just again excited about that, because I love competing overseas, and getting to experience all of that again was just incredible. It was like the best, like probably 2 weeks of my life. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. What's the process for someone who wants to compete overseas? What is the process to doing that?
So basically in Australia, all we had to do was compete in a state show to qualify. So once you do that, then we were allowed to, compete overseas, obviously in the NPC worldwide shows. I know we can't do all of the shows over there. Like, we can't do, some of your national shows that are only open to the like US citizens. So yeah, it was essentially just compete in the state show. I obviously did the national show as well. And it's all in the same kind of registration system. Like, we use the NPC worldwide system as well. So yeah, that was essentially all I had to do.
Now, do you have to get like a passport, a visa? Do you have to do like how are you booking like hotels, Airbnbs? Like, kind of break down that for us, because I imagine there's other pros as well as amateurs who are thinking like, I would love to leave from Australia and compete international like Lisa did, but what about all the logistics,
Yeah. So obviously we had to have the passport, and then it's just the general ESTA visa that we have to get to travel to the US, which is valid for, I think it's 2 years. So we just had to do that. And then booking hotels and stuff like that. When it came to, the Amateur Olympia, I really wanted to be amongst everything, over that Amateur Olympia time. So I booked the host hotel. I was there for about 10 days, I think it was. I did that. And then, in competing in America, it was like super easy. Obviously there was no kitchen facilities in that, but I'd kind of prepared. I'd got a little stove kind of thing. There was microwaves and stuff there. Very easy. You can get the Ubers to go to the gyms every day. The shops are all around. So for me, the food's very kind of similar. So for me, all that part was honestly like super, super easy. Yeah. The one thing I'm not quite sure of though, and I'll have to look into is now that I'm a pro technically, I don't know if I have to do anything else because, traveling as an amateur, it's more just a holiday essentially. So yeah, I have to double check on that.
Yeah. Your headphones are like, we want to be out
They
of your
keep
ears
falling
today.
off. Right, there we go.
Well, you know what's funny is I've had other people do podcasts with me before and they're wearing their AirPods, and when they like touch their hair or it falls out, like it hangs up. So they have to like
Oh,
rejoin. Yeah. So I was just like,
that
when I
hasn't
saw it
happened.
happen, I'm like, oh no.
These ones are horrible.
Um,
I drink prep my old ones like had broken and they just kept falling out constantly when I was training and I was like, have I just lost too much weight that like I don't know my
yeah.
ears are like, but it's still doing it now. So I don't know. I don't like these ones.
I know I have to wear the headphones that like go over my ear because if I'm like smiling or if I'm like
Yeah,
then I just
yeah,
end up, it just pops out. I'm like, oh, whatever.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
that's insightful. I think it'll be interesting to see how that evolves as a pro too. But
yeah,
I love to hear that because I think even for Americans who want to go overseas and travel, it's good information to know like you can make it work, and it's quite
yeah.
like if you use your resources, it's quite easy. Now, did your experience vary from competing internationally versus more locally?
Yeah, I mean, they were different, but then also there were similarities as well. So I suppose the biggest difference, I mean, was I didn't have my support crew. So
Yeah.
like in the audience cheering, but as opposed to the way that the shows were run, definitely all of the backstage crew, the tenors, like everyone went like over in the States, you
Hmm.
can tell that it's definitely something that, they do every weekend. Like I know you have so many shows over there, like everything was just like so smooth, like so well run. They were so onto it, like especially the Amateur
Hmm.
Olympia, like organizing, like I think there was like 9 high classes of us, all like international competitors, like speaking different languages. Just the way they ran everything was just like, yeah, um, yeah, very, very, very well run. So there was that. In terms of, I mean, it was a little bit different. I don't know if it was just that show, but normally in Australia we get like we'll have the run sheets. We'll know exactly how many classes are before us, stuff like that. Amateur Olympia, we didn't really know. So we didn't really like, because normally we can kind of guess what time and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
that was like a thing. We were like, and then like, we got sent to the backstage area to get glazed, but then it was still like another 2 hours before we got on stage. So there was definitely some learning kind of experiences there as well. Like I didn't have food backstage because we thought we were going online and then we weren't allowed to go back out
Oh,
again.
wow.
So there was just like a few different things like that, which I guess if I was to, you know, do it again potentially. But also we weren't allowed coaches at Amateur Olympia. But I know you're generally allowed coaches, I
Mhm.
believe. Is that right? At most of the shows over in America normally or no?
I think sometimes they
Um,
have to pay for a backstage pass.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's the same as Australia.
Yeah, that's also a really good point. The shows here are very well run, like everyone does it every weekend, yes. But also,
Mm,
like, I think my best experience with competing was actually during the pandemic because everything was
mm,
like, you have to be here at this time. We're not gonna let you backstage until so you knew you could not miss it, because
yeah,
they
yeah.
weren't gonna do it until it was there. And then also they would have like these apps that let you know when, like,
Yes.
and I think there's so many things that I think would be of benefit to running shows more effectively too. Because I also know just recently with the amateur Arnold, one of my clients, she's one of my mindset clients, she missed her class
Oh
because
no.
yeah, because they didn't have a schedule. They didn't say they had no meeting or when to go back. And I felt so bad for her because
Mm,
like that you work so hard. So I think having an effectively
that's
run show.
devastating.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so that's so important to have it run effectively. And like you said, sometimes it's a guessing game with when you're gonna go, but I can't imagine how you must
Mm.
have felt being back there like, okay, we just got glazed. I have no food, and 2 hours from now I'll be on stage.
Well, we didn't know really. Like we kind of thought it was, yeah, we're going on. I don't know. And then it just kept, there was all the routines. Like I think, I don't know if it was the woman's like physique or
Uh-huh.
some sort of routines. I wasn't even sure. Yeah, so like my coach was like messaging me like, I need you to eat more food, but I didn't get it because we weren't, didn't have our
Yeah.
phones either. Like they were all like back. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was just one little thing, but that's fine. And then judging wise, I suppose you can tell the judges do it every single weekend as well because they were quick with us. Like, it was kind of we get on stage, they knew exactly what
Mhm.
they wanted. Australia, like we were on stage for so long,
Oh,
like in
wow.
my classes, in my overalls, just really, yeah. I mean, I suppose I understand the overall. It was, yeah, it's for the pro card,
Got
but
it.
yeah. So
Mhm.
it was definitely a bit more stage time in Australia as
What do
well.
you think Australian competitors should consider if they want to be successful like you have been in turning pro?
As in like
Like,
traveling or just in
like
general.
everything, like, okay, how do I, as an Australian competitor, there's, at least
Mm.
as I'm trying to put myself in their shoes, there's two
Mm.
opportunities to win one opportunity to win a pro card for two people, or two opportunities, right? Two pro cards a year.
Mm. Yeah.
So at what point does someone know or decide this is a good time for me to compete and go for that pro card? Or what do you think that they should be considering if, like you, I look good, I'm where I need to be, but maybe I can't compete here anymore, at least not for
Mm.
this year. So how would you
Mm.
recommend someone who's in another country? It's another country to me, not for you, but in another
Yeah.
country
Yeah.
and unable
Yeah.
to have as many opportunities as we have here.
Yeah, I think it's good to, compete in Australia first. Like I obviously did my, 2022 season. I got second at the overalls in that season. So I absolutely do think, like compete in Australia first, really get that judges feedback. There is still a shot to get a pro card. Like, while it's very, very small, like, there is still that opportunity. Our judges here in Australia, at the moment as well, they are really, really good as well. They're really kind of, on par with what's happening over in America. So absolutely like be competing in Australia, getting your feedback. But then if you do, think that you do want to have more opportunities for you, absolutely consider some of the other shows. And, that's what I kind of did. I knew regardless, I'd planned to do the Amateur Olympia like the a year and a half before, like since like I stepped off like stage, I knew I wanted to do it regardless. So for
Yeah.
me, it was regardless of like what kind of happens. But yeah, if you do think that you're at that point where you do kind of have that chance, your physique is at that stage, I would absolutely take the advantage of doing it. Like, not only do you get the experience of just, getting in front of other judges, getting in front of America judges, it's all just experience. And, that's how you're going to grow and evolve as an athlete, is by just getting that experience, by competing, and then getting to, travel. It's exciting as well. It's fun as well. But it is, again, yeah, there's more opportunities for you out there. So if you are in the position where you can do it, then absolutely do it.
Peace with food without sacrificing your goals as a competitor, because you deserve to have successful preps, productive improvement seasons, and peace of mind year round. I decided to create a free 8-day food relationship coaching series a few years back that over 800 over 800 people have gone through. Because when your head is cluttered with thoughts of food, eating, guilt, you have a lot less energy to invest into the goals that you truly care about. So, this free program was designed to help athletes like yourself develop a healthy relationship with food so you can have your most fulfilling and effective preps, improvement seasons, and lifestyle phases as well. This is an 8-day series that has a video every single day, a full workbook to guide you through every single video, and you can respond to the emails with the work you did and receive direct support and guidance from me personally, which is, of course, something I love to provide to the community. So you're not only going to discover your ideal relationship with food, but you'll also identify detrimental thought and behavior patterns. You'll overcome guilt and shame, so every decision can be made with intention and pride. We will use expectations and reinforcements to seamlessly manipulate your behavior around food to be more positive and aligned with that ideal relationship with food. We'll figure out why you're really craving what you are when you're sleep deep in another jar of peanut butter, or justifying that next cookie, or continuously eating endless bags of rice cakes, whatever it is for you. We'll become crystal clear on why you act, think, and live the way you do, so you can, of course, act, think, and live the way you want to. And we'll come up with some personal commitments that are rooted in positive psychology based on your current season. So this is a psychoeducational course. It is free to anyone and everyone. You can access it at www.celestial.fit/food series and learn more about it, as well as even get a sneak peek into the accessible PDF notebook with the extra resources and guidance through every single workshop along the way. If you do decide to participate in it and you love it, of course, I encourage you to share it with a friend or a teammate or another athlete who may be struggling. Or if you hear about someone's struggle, let them know that this exists.
Yeah, and you really have had that journey, that long journey, and like you said, get experience. And I'm curious how you feel the last 10 years has actually developed you as an athlete, but also as a person.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like I did start so long ago. And back then, like I said, I was very naive. It's kind of funny. When I decided to do this prep, like I had never even done a structured weight training session before. I'd only ever done like group classes at the gym.
What?
So, yeah,
that's
literally
wild.
I know. So that's maybe just wait a little bit first, like put the work in first.
I'm like, okay, now I see why she's saying train and get some. Okay,
because I hadn't done it at all. I had just only done like group classes, like some functional classes, so there were some like strength elements, I suppose. But when I started, I'd done a gym challenge, which was like an 8-week gym challenge, and I just absolutely like loved the process, like loved it, like having that that challenge. I was going to the gym in the morning and in the night. I was sometimes going for runs at lunchtime. Like that's when I had my first kind of like eating plan to follow, and I absolutely thrived. Like I loved it. So for me, it was like I want to keep doing this. And someone I knew had started like doing comp prep, and I didn't even know really what it was. Like I was kind of watching her, like, what are you doing? And then once I kind of realized, I was like, oh my God, this is another opportunity for me to keep challenging myself. So, and that's when I literally signed up to the coach and got my first weight program. That's when I started tracking my macros for the first time. So,
wow.
I've definitely come a long way since then. So again, at the start, it was just this thing for me to do to challenge myself. And then I obviously loved it. And that whole first prep, I didn't really, again, like I said, I didn't really know what to expect. There were no kind of like expectations or pressure on me. I loved the process. And then after that kind of first season, like I said, I didn't place in my first show. I was obviously did not have enough muscle. Surprise. I was lean, very lean, but just not enough muscle. And then I ended up placing in like my second show. And then from there, I guess my like mentality and stuff like that started to change a little bit as well. That's when I did that. I realized I was too small. So then I started to follow people on Instagram, started to like research it more. And then obviously like went into my second show, but there was so much like just comparison in that prep. I was comparing myself to everyone, and it literally was so detrimental. Like I should not have done it. Like just so much extra stress on me by looking up all these people, online. And I kind of realized in that prep as well, like, again, I learned, what not to do. I kind of was able to then use that experience to then when I went into the next prep, it was different again. Like I started to kind of, not focus on those things, just focus on what was important, like doing my training, my nutrition, just ticking the boxes every day. And I suppose for those first 2 seasons that I did, like I didn't really know what I was capable, or didn't, I suppose, believe in myself that much, especially that second prep. There was a lot of self-doubt in there. By the time my third one came around, and I actually managed to, I won, I think 5 overalls that season. Like I kind of had improved a lot. And that is when I just truly started to believe in myself. And, that changed the game, like as well, like so much, just having that belief in confidence in myself that, hey, I can actually kind of achieve these things that I want to do if I do keep putting in the work. And from then, like that was back in 2017. My whole life from then has pretty much just been like 100% dedicated to being that athlete. It was, fully taking those off seasons seriously, I mean, off-season improvements, whatever you want to call it, like everything, again, just every single show, I just kept focusing on, being better. And then it's just, maturing as an athlete as well, just in all aspects, I suppose. Like it just has, I just improved, like, I don't even know how to, but it's just become part of my life now. It really is just an extension of my life. It's not something separate that I do. It's something that I'm so passionate about. And it does help you in other aspects of your life as well, like the discipline, just being appreciative as well of all of my like loved ones, like my family and support. Like as I've competed, I've just grown more and more appreciative as well of my family and friends, because they have always been so supportive of me. So it really just has leveled up my life in so many different ways.
Absolutely. Oh, wow. There was so much there that I really love what you had to say, especially the fact that you were 22 when you started. So like I can attest to growing up in the sport, like 18 to 22, if that's when you're starting, I feel even 23, like you're really growing up. Through the sport.
As a person.
Yeah, exactly. So you go from like young woman to woman while competing. And I think it almost accelerates some of what you learn as a woman. Like you mentioned, learning not to compare yourself to others, learning that the process is more important and more worthy of focusing on than the outcome, realizing that belief in yourself can translate to greater confidence and therefore greater results. And that comes from focusing on the process, and that comes from not being distracted by comparison. So hearing you say all of that, it's like, it's not even just the journey of a competitor. It's like the girlhood to womanhood journey.
Yeah, it really is. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. And so let's go back to the comparison, because this is a big one. I'm not saying it's exclusive to girls, because even us women, like, we can still engage with it quite often. And we're in a sport where we're standing next to other women being
literally to get compared.
Literally. So, it's hard not to think about that kind of stuff. And I think it's like there's a difference between knowing you're being compared because it's a criteria you've chosen to uphold yourself to and you want to be judged against, versus I'm being compared because they're better than me or less than me. And there's like the different energy. So when you were comparing yourself to people online, were you finding that your energy was more so in like, oh, they're going to beat me, so I should give up, or, oh, I don't think I'm as good as this person? Like, what was the energy when you were doing that?
Oh, absolutely. It was definitely a negative energy for sure. So it was always, again, like I said, I am on the smaller side. But back then, especially, like I didn't have any muscle. So it was really like, those girls are like, way bigger than me. I'm too small. Like, I'm not going to do well. That's literally what it was. And it was, I ended up beating like most of those girls that I was, like stressing about. So like, again, it's like, why are you doing this? And that is 100% when I learned all of that negative energy. It kind of was then channeled into my prep as well. Like I was more stressed. That's obviously going to affect, your progress as well if you're stressed constantly. So absolutely, it was negative. Like nowadays, I'm looking at, competitors being like, oh, wow, like their physique is incredible. Like it's absolutely changed my comparison, how I compare myself to kind of others in that way. It is using that as that motivation, like, that, whereas back then, that is absolutely not what I was doing. It was not for motivation. It was just to make myself feel bad, really.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. And it's, so I kind of find like comparison, whether it's upward or downward, is going to likely have some sort of negative implication in the future on somebody's experience or journey. So you found that it was taking away energy that could go positively towards you as well as to your prep. I see a lot of the times competitors who struggle with comparison, it ends up derailing their adherence, because they start to see like, oh, if I can't do it, why would I go as hard? Why would I? Versus, what if I can do it? Or look at where this person is like, I want to be even better. Then you said something else, which is you ended up beating a lot of the girls that you compared yourself to. And this has been said a million times, but it's important. Like what you see on social media is
100%.
not always what they want on stage, you know, or even what is on stage.
Yeah. Yeah. Like 100%. Social media, we all know we will choose our best angles, the best lighting. And what also matters is, that like they may not have chosen the best lighting or the best angles, but it doesn't matter how they look 3 months out, 2 months out, 1 month out, 1 week out, 1 day out.
Exactly.
Like none of that matters. All that matters is how you look on that very day when you're on stage next to the other girls under those stage lights, and how the judges perceive you and how close to the criteria you are. So yeah, and that's absolutely something that I really learned after that season. Once I kind of did, like I said, I beat some of those girls, I kind of realized, okay, like you need, like, you need to stop doing this. It's not, social media is only like one side of it. And from there, I did kind of really, it was a bit of a reality check, I suppose, as well for me, because then it meant that next season I did stop. Like I stopped kind of comparing. I stopped the stalking of athletes who were going to be in my lineups, those day before the like, when you get the competitor list or whatever. Like I really did, and really just focused on myself, my, how much work I was putting into just channeling all that energy. And it made it so much enjoyable as well. Like I absolutely I love prep. I enjoy it so much. I'm a person who, like, people say I'm happier when I'm in prep as opposed to like being out of prep. But yeah, that it did. It made the whole thing like much more enjoyable. And again, like I said, just, that belief and confidence in myself grew. And it's not to say that we don't compare. Like it's kind of a natural thing that we are kind of, I suppose, going to compare yourself every now and then, but it's just kind of like seeing that competitor, cool, they look good, and then just moving on.
Yeah, it's like interrupting that from going down a rabbit hole or a dark spiral. Instead, it's like, hey, I see what's coming up. I know this doesn't help me or help anything I'm doing. So I'm going to transform this thought or energy into something better. And you said this is part of like personal growth that you incurred over the last 10 years. Are there other changes you have seen within yourself going from literally not doing any sort of weight training, any sort of thing related to bodybuilding, to then being someone who is obsessed with prep in a positive way? Like any other inner changes that have come from that?
I don't think about that.
I mean, granted, you were a dancer, so maybe discipline was already here, but did you notice a change in like how you think about things or how you look at your day or prioritize your time?
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, like I've been disciplined since day dot, really, in that regards, because I wanted to be a dancer, but I also wanted to excel at school. So for me, it was I always had that, the time management. It was the, on the weekends, okay, well, I've got to do my, schoolwork and stuff like that now, because I want to go to dance lessons every single night after school. Like, so that discipline, it was easy for me to kind of just move on like straight into competing. So that, again, that has never been something that I've struggled with, the discipline element. I suppose, like you said, though, how I do, look at my life, I suppose, it has changed. Like I'm always, structuring my day every single day, have for years, based around, like my training, my nutrition, any other kind of like my daily walks, like that bit has changed, that bit focused. But I think another important thing too is that whilst competing is like, it really is my life, it's my passion, I'm not just identified as just a competitor. I'm also a friend, I'm a sister, I'm a partner. I have other things that I love to do. I love to read, I love to, drink coffee and go for walks. I love to catch up with my friends. I love to go to the beach. So while it does, it is such a big, important part of my life, and so many of my just every single daily decisions is based on that. It's not the only part of my life as well. Yeah.
I'm so glad that you said that, because it's easy for people to hear someone say, I love prep and I'm happier on prep, and think that competing's your life and nothing else matters. But in reality, like, you can love prep, you can be a great competitor and still know that your identity and other roles of your life matters. And at least for me, this has been true. Now, I'm going to ask if this is your experience too, but do you find that by also having other roles that you play in your life, you show up better as an athlete?
Oh, absolutely, 100%, for sure. And another thing as well that I've always kind of preached, or like I've always been like so important, and it's advice that I give to a lot of newcomers and stuff like that who come out, is when you are in a prep, you still need to remember that, you know, there's other important people in your life. You cannot expect them to just change their life for you. For me, I always made it a priority. I've never missed out on going to, you know, my friend's birthday dinner, or, you know, my like anything in my life. I have always prioritized them as well. I have shown up, you know, gone to a restaurant, just sat there, just drinking my, you know, water or like my Coke Zero. I've always just want to show up for the people in my life in any aspect and any way I can, because it's my choice to prep. It's no one else's. So why should they have to kind of, you know, miss out on me sharing those experiences or being there for me when they need me, when they're going through something rough or, you know, something like that. For me, that is so, so important. And I think it's also a reason why my preps are so enjoyable, is because, you know, it goes both ways. I'm always showing up for the people in my life. I'm always there, which means that they're the ones who are always showing up for me as well. They're the first ones to be coming to my shows, to be, you know, screaming my name, to be sending me flowers after I, you know, like win my shows. So it really does go both ways. And that's why I've never like, you know, you hear like stories of people who, you know, I know may not have, you know, supportive family members or friends or something like that. I am just so grateful and so lucky that the people in my life have been so, so, so supportive of me, and it has made it all enjoyable. But I think it also, you know, a little bit does count down to the fact that you've also got to, it goes both ways, and you do have to show up for them as well. And yeah, that's something that I really, really believe is important.
I could not agree more. I think that makes you a more well-rounded athlete, but also person. And if we're so one-track minded all the time, I think we lose sight of other things that matter. And therefore, we miss out on a lot of the best parts of being an athlete if we let go of everything else. And
Yeah.
I think what holds people back is that they are scared to go to social events. They're scared to go out. They're not willing to sacrifice being around food that they can't eat. They're
Yeah.
not willing to sacrifice a little bit of extra sleep, and or get up early to go do their cardio so they can spend the day with their family. And I think that is a problem for a lot of athletes. And honestly, like from a mental perspective, I think it would be way more beneficial for athletes to see the value in addressing the mental concerns you have, whether that's around food, your body, social
Yeah.
events, communication, boundary settings. If you can address that, you're going to have a better and easier time prioritizing all of these different roles in your life versus, oh, well, when I'm competing, I'm just a competitor, so let me ignore everything else. And as
Yeah.
you also said, those are the people who are going to be there for you. And you can't expect them
Mm.
to adjust like that, because season to season, or maybe expectations and goals change, time changes. So
Yeah.
you have to meet them where they're at too. And I'm aware that your partner is also your coach. So
Yeah.
how did that dynamic play out, and what does it look like to balance those roles?
Yeah. 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 So he's been my coach for, it's been like 7 years now, I think. So
Wow.
yeah, it's been a long time. I had my first coach for 2 years. And then yeah, he's been my coach for that long. I know you know, we know a few people in the industry. Like we do know a lot of like couples in the industry, you know, and some coaches, like some they will say, oh, there's no way my partner could like prep me. Others, you know, they kind of do. For us, it just works so, so well. We are so lucky that it's just, and I suppose, like I said, we've been doing it for so long together, and we really, really enjoy it. And it is one of the parts of my relationship that I really do enjoy. But I guess when it comes to, you know, like prep or even just off season in general, it's just we just have to be kind of like honest and just say, you know, I need you to be my coach right now, or I need you to be my like partner right now. And honestly, that is kind of like, I know it sounds simple, but like for us, it just works. Like it really is just like a daily kind of, it's just like a day-to-day thing. Like it's very easy. Like we still do our, you know, I'll have my check-ins once a week where he'll you know, take those skin folds, I can preface all the photos and stuff like that. We'll analyze and, you know, talk things over. But yeah, it's just with us, it's just a dynamic that just works. And for me, I am just so lucky that I get to kind of experience like these two great loves of my life, just like with
Mhm.
the same person. So I get to experience it
Aw.
all. Like, we got to win that pro card together. We got to kind of experience all of the highs and lows, together. And for me, like, I love it. Like, I wouldn't want to be kind of prepped by anyone else, but I also
Aw.
know that it's definitely something that, doesn't work for everyone. I suppose maybe I'm not someone who really needs like a hard coach to, pull me into line or anything like that. For me, that part of it is, it's just easy. Like, it doesn't really have to do any of that. So maybe that potentially is why as well. Like, it's not, doesn't really cause much friction or anything like that between us.
Mhm.
But yeah.
Now he's seeing you every day pretty much, right?
Yeah.
Does he ever, like, when you're walking around the house, is he ever like, oh, I'm noticing your shoulders are looking like this, like maybe we should be adding this? Or is it always just like only saved for check-ins that he's giving you feedback?
Yeah. Oh, more just for check-ins, I say.
Yeah.
That's like the kind of comments, but yeah, it's definitely not a like, during the middle of the week, been walking around like, oh, you're looking a bit flat, like I need to get some more carbs or something like that. Yeah, it's more kind of saved the check-ins, but again, we do talk about stuff all the time. Like I'm obviously obsessed with this sport, so I'm constantly annoying him, like being like, oh, what do you think of this? Oh, what do you think of this?
Right.
Oh, what do you think of this training thing? So I do kind of like, we do talk about it outside of our check-in days as well, for sure. It's just, yeah.
Well, you love it. And if he was just your boyfriend and not your coach, you would be talking to your boyfriend about how much you love it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's comes
Yeah.
with the territory, whether he's a coach or not. But how do you
Yeah.
navigate his attention to other athletes as well as to you, especially coming
Mm,
from the background with comparison as well, like knowing he's coaching, I'm assuming he's coaching other women and
mm,
potentially even guiding them to the goals or the stages that you're going to be stepping on. Like,
yeah.
how do you navigate that emotionally or mentally?
Yeah. I suppose because I have just been involved in the sport for so long. And for me, I guess there's no kind of like, I don't know, like some people say, oh, aren't you jealous? Like him, looking at all these check-in photos of girls in their underwear, essentially. And for me, like it's never really been an issue. Like I think it's because I'm in it. Maybe if I wasn't in it,
Yeah.
I'd be like, oh, this is like, a bit weird. But that part of it, yeah, like I've never really kind of had any problems with. And he has a lot of clients. But that has never come into play. There's never been anything like that when it comes to, I suppose, me competing against, his other clients, like in those federations, it's more just kind of me just trusting the fact that I know regardless, like every single competitor, and that is something that is so great about him, he doesn't play favorites. He doesn't have his, star clients or this or
Right.
that. Like I know that every single client has the same amount of attention. He'll put the same amount of effort into it. So, yeah, and it's just kind of me knowing that. And also, like I said, maybe if this was like 5 years ago, I may have had a little bit more kind of like struggled a little bit mentally with it. Whereas now, because I have been in it so long, I just really trust in my own ability and, just stay focused on my own journey and try not to, yeah, I guess focus on what kind of like his other clients are doing. I obviously want them to do well. Absolutely. Like I want them to be, up there, like on the podium with me, but it's just kind of trusting in myself. I know that, he is putting everything into my prep. He's given me all the kind of attention, that I need. So it is really just about being confident in yourself and, trusting yourself really. And it's not like I get special treatment either. Like
Yeah.
it's probably harder. Like it's harder on me than any
Yeah.
other time. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you answered that because I feel like that's one of those like curiosities, especially to people who aren't in it. Like, as women in the sport, we're like, we don't see putting on a bikini and heels and sending check-ins to our coach as like anything other
Mm,
than a physique assessment.
yeah.
Whereas outside, like outsiders looking in might be like, that seems odd, or how is that okay? But in reality, like we're like, well, this is part of the sport. It's athletics.
Mm,
Like this is how we approach it. And then also I like how you
mm,
said there's no favorites anyways, and you already know you're doing the best you can. And that's all that
mm,
matters.
mm.
Now what is amazing is over the last 7 years of working with him, and even beyond that, you've gained a lot of muscle. You've referenced yourself as a smaller athlete. You've gained a lot of muscle over time. Obviously, you said you have more growing to do. What do you do to achieve the muscle gains you need? And how does that look with day-to-day programming, like eating, training, resting?
Yeah. Consistency is 100% the number one factor for sure. In those 7 years, like I have not, it's been it's constant, like off season, and it's really prioritizing that off season. So while I may call it an off season, that's just what it was called when I first started. I know, a lot of people call it the improvement season, but there's no off about it. Like you're on like 100% of the time. So for me, like, absolutely, like it has been really trying to get the most out of that off season, really focusing on that. Obviously my food gets built up in those off seasons, and the training is, again, structured a little bit more now than what it was before, as in like we've got the more focus on those rural areas that we kind of, need to grow the shoulders, like the delts, all of that. But there's a lot of, I still do like lift quite heavy. There's obviously a lot of volume as well. We've done in the past like 2 years, there's been so much volume on those glutes. Like by the end of like my last prep, I was like, oh God, if I never see another hip thrust again. But yeah, so it is, just like really prioritizing that off season, eating the food in there. I also I really take my reverse diet like seriously as well after the preps, so that I'm in that really good position once I kind of like reverse out to like get onto the gaining. And then programming wise, it'll either be like a 5 or a 6 day program that he gives me, and it's generally like the three lower like slash glutes, and then kind of like a 3 upper. Or if it's a 5-day program, it'll be like 2 lower, 2 upper. My 5th day will be those extra areas that I need work on, the glutes and the shoulders. And just, honestly, it's just day by day, just ticking those boxes, literally just staying consistent. Obviously my technique and stuff like that would have gotten better as I went along, still training with intensity, progressive overload.
Yeah. It's so simple. See, but I ask these questions sometimes, and I don't ask this question a lot, but when I ask it, the answer is the same. And so I ask it every once in a while because I want listeners to hear it is simpler than we make it. It's like that consistency, that daily effort.
Literally.
Yeah. And making sure, obviously, you have proper guidance, which you trust the guidance that you have and you're happy with it and it's worked for you.
Yeah.
But a lot of people want to rush to the end result. And I think part of that is because we see the end result celebrated when really it is that day-to-day grind. And you said that you love it. Like you love it. Maybe you're even happier in prep than in an improvement or off season. What's different for you between prep and off season?
Yeah. So obviously as my, the years in the sport have kind of like gone through, I suppose the difference between an off season and a prep aren't really that different, in that it is just basically like, my day-to-day ticking off the nutrition, the training, etc. Obviously off season may have the flexibility of going out for a dinner, like on, a Saturday night or whatever it may be. So when it comes to prep, obviously that is just like 100% on regardless. But for me, it's more just, I don't know, that flick is switched. Is that the same? Did I say that right?
Flip switch?
Flip switch?
Flip. Yeah, flip the switch. You flip the switch.
Oh, yeah.
The switch is flipped. Wait.
Like that? I don't know. Whatever that is, whatever that's saying.
Whatever, y'all. You know what we mean.
Yeah. Like, it's just like on, like 100% that focus is on. And for me, I love the grind of just pushing myself and be able to like really see like how hard I can work and like what level I can get to. I definitely got the leanest that I kind of ever have like last season, and I love it. Like I love getting that, not that it looks that great when you get right towards the end, but just being able, just having like, the grit, the determination when you're tired, when you've got no energy, like you're low on food, to just keep going, doing that cardio, like, and just seeing those changes happen. For me, it's so exciting. Like it is so exciting to just kind of like see how far you can push yourself and just, yeah, just know that you're like 100% committed to that goal. I love it.
Yeah, I've gotten almost like I don't know what the word. It's not addicted, but it's close. It's a close feeling
Mm-hmm.
to like the way prep feels is like you're consistently pushing yourself and then your programming is getting consistently harder. But it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily feel so like I look at the end of my last prep and I'm like, how did I do that? That was intense. But I realized, it was a progression. And so I was like building
Yeah.
myself mentally and physically to get to that push point. But then the
Yeah.
same thing, like you get to the end of that and then you're like, okay, well now like I've been told I need to grow. And you almost get addicted to the same feeling of like, okay, now I'm gonna like progressively overload every day. I'm gonna see how far can we push my
Mm.
food while keeping body comp good. And like you get
Yeah.
that drive to create a better new normal.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's another reason why for me in my off seasons, it's or my reverse as well, like post comp. Like I know that period can be very, very difficult for, a lot of athletes. For me, I think why I've never really struggled with it is because it is. It's like that fire is just like relit again, like straight away. And it's immediately focusing on like what I want to do next time. So it's again like sometimes when you come to the end of a prep and that, that goal of getting on stage is kind of over, like you are, you do feel a little bit lost. I felt it like my first prep for sure. But yeah, it's like straight away, like, oh my God, especially for me this time, like I'm like, oh my God, like now I'm going into the pro league. So again, it just
Yeah.
it's like so much extra fire as well. Just to keep, yeah, like I said, like again, like prioritizing, like doing that reverse, like keeping that like body comp, at a good body composition, like good body fat, really, yeah, just focusing on the muscle growth on those areas you need to grow just so you can be better the next time. So yeah, that's how it's been for me for literally probably like the last 5 years. I think like I get off on my last one and I'm like, okay, what can I do? Like, what can I
Yes.
do for when I get on stage in like a year's time? Yeah.
That's good insight though, because for those people who are struggling or do tend to struggle post show, I think it's because there's been too much focus or emphasis on stage day that they
Mm,
lose sight of the big picture. I know this used to be the case for me. So now it's like
mm,
every time I know I'm doing a prep, I know there's going to be another one in the future. So
yeah.
it's like not everything's riding on this show because there's so many
Mm,
opportunities to improve in this sport no matter what. And I
yeah,
think having that long-term vision and that excitement and not being overly attached to a timeline helps.
absolutely.
And then
Yeah.
like you said, you have that fire under your belly because you're or in your belly because you're like, oh my gosh, like
Mm,
now, especially now with entering the pro league, which
yeah.
actually,
Yeah.
what are your goals for the pro league?
Oh, I'm so excited, honestly.
Yeah.
I'm constantly looking at I'm having this year off as like my growing season.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm gonna just have this whole year off to go and then
Good.
2025. Yeah, my plans are to come over to the States. I want to be over there for, at least a month. I want to do a string of
Yeah.
shows, depending on what I can kind of like fit in. That for me is I'm so excited about it. Like I said, when I was at Amateur Olympia, that week because when I stayed there during the Olympia, just living that lifestyle, it was honestly an absolute dream for me. I was in my absolute element. So to then have the opportunity now as a pro to come over, I can stay for, I don't know, a month, 2 months, like whatever it may be, and do as many shows as I can do. Like I am so, so excited about that. I really wanted to like, ideally, I would love to just get on the pro stage right now. Like I'd love to go into a prep right now. Like I am that excited. But I also know that I do need a little bit of time. I want to make the improvements. I want to, step on the pro stage with a much better physique as well. So yeah, I will be taking this current year to grow. As opposed to the timelines, I'm not 100% sure when it'll be yet. It'll either probably be like July, like the June, July, August period, or the kind of October, November period. It'll just kind of depend. There's the potential for an Aussie Pro show maybe next year, but we don't know if that's actually going to happen or not. So yeah, we'll see, because that would obviously be a dream to be able to do that as well in front of my family and
Yeah.
friends, because I've kind of losing that opportunity now, I guess, to be able to compete in front of them all the time, just due to the limited pro shows here. So yeah, that's those initial, well, I mean, that's my initial plan. And then as opposed to like my goals as a pro, I know I'm literally starting from the beginning and I'm starting at the very, very bottom of a very big mountain. But I'm excited to climb it. So again, it'll be a series of steps, just like it was back when I started, when I wanted to win my first show, like my first whatever. So I know obviously I'm under no illusions that I'm going to go into my first pro show and win the show and qualify for Olympia. Like I'm absolutely I know that I'll need to go in, and it's just going to be, again, those smaller goals as we kind of step up. Like I want to, make my first top 10. Then, I want to make my first call out, my first placing. And then do I want to win my pro show and qualify for the Olympia down the track? Absolutely. Like it's, awesome. I think it's every bikini girl's dream to be able to, like make the Olympia. So yeah, but I do also know that, there's a lot of, steps that I need to go. I also need to get in front of, Tyler and Sammy and get their opinions on my physiques as well. So yeah, I'm excited to kind of see what happens this first season, and keep going after that.
Yeah, you have so much ahead of you. It's exciting, and I'm imagining you're probably really enjoying making your routine as well.
Yeah, I've got, so that's definitely something I'm super excited about. I'm going to start with my posing coach. I've been playing around myself, but I'll be starting with my posing coach, I think, after the season in Australia, which is next month. So I know she'll be busy with them. So then we'll start working with her as well. But I am so excited about that because I love posing. I love being on stage. So to be able to get, that little bit of more time on stage, to be able to walk on, to be able to walk back, like do whatever I want to do in my routine. I'm thrilled about that. I'm so excited. So yeah.
That is exciting. When you pose, are you thinking about dance? Like, is that in your mind? Like, does it feel like dance or does it feel different?
Yeah, so it's funny you say that. I always seem to, so my first kind of like IFBB show, you can see like I went out there, I had like Beyonce playing, and I was just dancing to the music essentially. Like my movements were all like very well timed. It looked like I made it up to the thing, and it was just a real natural thing for me. Like I came out and came alive. And then I knew like that season that I was definitely, my arms were kind of moving like way too much. Like I was well aware of that. And then this year, like with my new posing coach, we were really working on, obviously everything way more detailed, like, and being a little bit more just what's the word? Controlled. Sorry. Yeah. Just a little bit more controlled, like my movements as well. And like, it was looking really good. And I said to her, I was like, the only thing is that sometimes I get on stage and I just
hear that music.
Hear that music. I just like,
you become a dancer.
I'm alive. Yeah. So I did a little bit, like I kicked my leg up a little bit kind of too high in one bit. I do find that if the music is something that I kind of can, like when I'm doing like my walk to the front, I will kind of like walk to the beat. It's just, it's something that's just very natural to me. I'm getting better at it. Like I was a lot more controlled as well, but yeah.
Yeah. Whenever I speak with previous dancers, I find like it's hard for you not to go on stage and hear the music. Whereas a lot of us who don't have a dance background, like we black out, like we're not hearing the music. We're just there. I mean, sometimes maybe we hear some of it, but like I could not tell you any song I've ever walked on stage to. Nope, not even right after I walk off. But for you as a dancer, what song is, if you don't know the title, at least what was it sounding like.
Yeah.
Whereas like that's because you're trained to do that. You were trained to do that.
Yeah, for sure. And then I suppose the different types of music as well, they may change my energy slightly as well. Because I remember one of the shows I had a really like slow kind of like boring song, and I was like, I was like still obviously like my face just lights up. Like I love doing it. I still had a bit of energy and stuff like that, but I was kind of a bit like,
That's so funny. For me, if I heard a slow song and was aware of it, I'd be like happy about it. Oh, thank goodness, because you got to control this booty from moving at all. Keep it up tight.
Yeah. Look, I'd love it if like, even like the pro league, like if we were allowed to kind of like choose our song, like for the walk in, like I know that'd be like way too hard to manage, but that that would be fun.
That would be really fun. So
Yeah.
we've talked about all sorts of different things, but what is your best advice for somebody who's never competed before and wants to? And then what is your best advice for someone who's on their road to pro?
Yeah, I think my best advice for someone who has like never competed before and they're kind of thinking about it, like, is to really make sure that your why is strong as well. I think that is super, super important. Really understand and think about why you're competing. Is it just because you want to improve your body confidence or something like that? Like there can be other avenues that you can take. Really make sure that why is strong. That is super, super important. And then another one is really once you kind of do know like that you are kind of competing for the right reasons, it's doing the research as well. So, when it comes to coaches, doing the research on the coaches, having a look at their pages, having a look at, who they've kind of coached, seeing what their competitors are saying about them, and even just the research in general about talking to people, like what's actually involved. Because I think some people really don't realize like just how much is involved, like in that first prep. So they're probably the two most important things that I could give someone who is like thinking about doing their first show. Obviously, when it comes to your first prep, like, I don't know, I could probably write a book on all the different like tips that I could give people. But yeah, I think those two are certainly important. Like for me, when I made that decision to compete, it was because I wanted to challenge myself. Even like I said, I didn't know much. And it absolutely changed my life for the better. Like it has really enhanced like my life making that decision. But I have kind of seen some people who maybe did enter a prep for the wrong reasons. And then they have, like they are experiencing, like they are suffering in some other ways, like from that. So I just think, yeah, making sure that why is strong is super important.
That's great. And what about for someone who is on their road to pro?
Yeah. I would say also don't try to rush it. So don't just, I know we see it a lot, more as well these days now that like it's so much more present on Instagram. But for me, don't rush the process and really first like enjoy your time in the amateur ranks. Like it took me like I have won 3 pro cards in my time, but before I won my first one, like I'd been competing for like 3 seasons before that, and I was kind of glad that I did have that because I really got to obviously evolve as an athlete, improve as an athlete as well, but just really also kind of appreciate it when I did actually like win that like first pro card, and it was kind of a bit of a recognition of all of that hard work. And you get to, I mean, especially in Australia, like the amateur, like there is way more opportunities to kind of compete. So do it, really enjoy it first. And then once obviously you do want to win that pro card, it really is just, I mean, for starters, don't be afraid to take the time off to make those improvements. I love competing. I would ideally love to compete every single season, like, but I kind of knew that no, like I really am serious about this. I really do like want to win that pro card. So I am going to take the time off, from the shows and compete. So just, yeah, really taking that time off, and then just don't give up as well. If it's something that you really want, just keep working. And yeah, it might actually happen.
That's so great. And that's representative of your own journey. And I appreciate you sharing not just your advice, but all of your experiences and your outlook. So how can people follow your journey and watch you achieve your goals and also connect with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm mainly just on Instagram. So my Instagram is at Lisa Jane Reid. That's REID. That is where I'll be. I am trying to share a little bit more on Instagram, I suppose. I mean, as you know, as I've kind of said, when I first started, it was not about that. Like I didn't even really have Instagram then. So it has always been more of a like, this is for me, like this journey is for me. But I have really been I'm going to try and start documenting more, especially when it comes to, like my first kind of like my pro prep. I definitely will try and post a lot more. But if girls want to, message me or anything like that, any questions, absolutely feel free. I'd be happy to chat.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it's great that this journey is more for you, by the way, and that it didn't start out of like, any desire for anybody else, but for you. And I think that speaks to a lot of your ability to have longevity, like you said, even in your advice, knowing your why, knowing what drives you. So We'll make sure to put your Instagram handle in the show notes page. So you guys, that's always
Thank
on
you.
celestial.fit/podcast. If you're listening right away, it'll be at the top of the episode. If you're listening in the future, scroll down to the category section, which is alphabetized. You'll not just find the links to connect, but also a bulleted list of the topics we covered, an episode summary, and timestamps from the episode, so you can go back and listen to your favorite part. Of course, if you watched with us on YouTube, those timestamps are usually clickable, which is great. We've been doing tons of YouTube episodes, guys. So if you haven't been watching the videos of us talking, that's on celestial_fit. And there's a whole Confessions of a Bikini Pro playlist that you can find. But appreciate you guys tuning in either way. And that I hope you all have an amazing rest of your day, night, or morning, wherever you are in the world while you're listening to this episode. Just make it awesome.